Hi guys, welcome back. So the Rugby Championship 2021. Now my original idea is a bit in tatters. I was going to summarise both rounds, the back-to-back fixtures, and then talk about the games from today. But of course, we've only got one game today. That's the second of the Argentina-South Africa games. New Zealand have pulled out essentially. Situation in their country has changed and the government has given them certain guidelines, and they are not going to Australia to play their second Rugby Championship match, or the third against Australia. And it looks like the games against South Africa coming up are also in jeopardy at the moment. They're off. They are trying to get them on, maybe in Europe, maybe in South Africa. It's a bit of a mess. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but it certainly doesn't look good. Again, they're washing their dirty laundry in public. Dave Rennie saying he's bloody angry, finding out the game wasn't on social media. New Zealand coming back saying they had told Rugby Australia, so it's all a bit of a mess out in public. But anyway, what we're going to do is briefly talk about the first round here, then get into the game today, which is Argentina against South Africa, and see what conclusions we can draw. But I'd love to know your opinions on this little bit of a mess going on in the Rugby Championship. Will we get a Rugby Championship? Will it go down to some sort of Tri-Nations type thing? We will see. Anyway, in round one, New Zealand smash Australia 57-22, but it is quite close at halftime, 21-15. The Australians end sharply. McDermott looking sharp from the base there, scoring his try. Australian errors really cost them, interception passes. New Zealand do score some really good tries, an absolute wonder try from Retallick in the end, from deep end-to-end stuff, brilliant execution, especially in the second half. New Zealand really stepped up and really made Australia look a little bit silly at times. Australia, just too many errors against such a good team, can't do it. But it was an exciting game, quite refreshing after the Lions series. Both sides very positive, certainly exciting to see. I mean, Australia certainly can live with New Zealand for a certain amount of time, but then New Zealand pull away, just too much individual class. It looks at the moment Australia are quite a long way off it, but they are still quite a young team. New Zealand, they've got the likes of Mo'unga, Havili, McKenzie really making the play. Bowden Barrett to come on, just to name a few of the backs there. Really impressive. Ardy Severe was playing at 8. That seemed to work very nicely. But anyway, they've wrapped up the Bledisloe Cup 2-0, but they're not going to play, they haven't played Australia in the second game. So who knows what's going to happen in the Rugby Championship. But certainly at that point, New Zealand looking very sharp indeed. Now, going on to South Africa and Argentina. In the first game, 32-12, a good win for South Africa, but it was fairly messy. Errors on both sides. Kramer giving away a lot of penalties for Argentina. Willemse for South Africa. Question marks maybe over Elton Jantjies. It was okay. I mean, they won quite easily in the end. Nice finishes from Reinach. Fassi again showing his telescope arms, reaching a crossfield kick that looked like it was going to go out of his grasp, and a big impact from the South African bench. And Argentina just couldn't break South Africa's line often enough to make enough opportunities to have a chance of winning this game. So on to today's game. South Africa 29, Argentina 10, or Argentina 10, South Africa 29. Argentina technically the home team, I guess. A similar scoreline to the last game, but I'd say South Africa looked a bit better, really, a bit more comfortable, although they really lost it in the last 20 minutes, and Argentina came back into it, making that scoreline a bit more respectable. And indeed, Argentina were super fired up to play better than they did last week. And also, just at the beginning, South Africa's attack was a bit too slow, a bit too obvious, and Argentina was swarming well, winning turnovers, so it was looking okay for Argentina at the start. The intent was there, the speed of phases were there, but I was just getting worried they didn't have the firepower to break the South African line, and that was true until the end, to be honest. On 7 minutes, Pollard and Leroux showing their quality of passes. Nice little delay pass from Pollard, I think. Nice long pass from Leroux. Really open up Argentina. Get into the 22. Lots of pressure, lots of penalties, and that's a theme for Argentina throughout the game, conceding a lot of penalties. They go to a 5-metre line out. They fancy their chances, but it is a rubbish line out, to be fair. And they do muck up a fair few line outs in good positions. But another penalty, they finally decide to go to the posts, get ahead 3-0. And really in this first half, it's a case of chipping away, building that lead nicely. I did like their shape at times, South Africa. We didn't see it flow, but certainly, they have Pollard sitting behind pods of forwards as a playmaker if they need him, rather than just bashing it up or just playing competitive kicks. So I do see a bit of an evolution of South Africa, and we saw it a bit at times in this game. Scrum penalty, they go 6-0 up, and South Africa have the best of the scrum in this game. Certainly get some plenty of points and field position. Argentina, they're playing fairly well, to be honest. It's just everything that South Africa do is a little bit better. So it's not that they're poor, they're spoiling, they're competing. They're just not as good, essentially. It's pretty simple. But anyway, on 20 minutes, a nice line out to the back and a big maul for South Africa. Powers into the 22. More Argentinian penalties, 9-0, looking very good, but they do give away a penalty straight away. That crawling penalty from Visa, something the refs are super hot on at the moment, and Argentina gets some points on the board, 9 points to 3. And also the South African line-out with maul, it's just helping control the pace of this first half. Lets them kick for field position. Argentina are struggling for territory, and that really is the story of South Africa pinning Argentina back, playing the rugby in their half, and Argentina just kept at arm's length. And indeed, off another South African maul, a big weapon for them today, 12 points to 3, looking very good. And it gets even worse, the Argentinian penalty count really killing them. Yellow for Bruni on 31 minutes. That certainly doesn't help. Goes 15 points to 3. A really good jackal from Kitsoff. He was impressive all game, as was the South African front five of the scrum, to be honest. Stopping any momentum for Argentina. The setup they have going where they go to a line-out, go to a maul. De Lande's flat, often with someone with him as well. Pollard's out the back, and then Willie LaRue's a little bit further out. It's just a good shape. They can do quite a lot with it. And they're looking comfortable. Argentina do get a penalty shot right on the stroke of half-time. It's a long way out on halfway, and it's missed indeed. So it's 15 points to 3. South Africa not doing anything stellar, but certainly beating Argentina in all areas. Argentina, decent, but decent isn't good enough versus South Africa, and the penalties are killing them. So into the second half, Pollard's one area of weakness really in this game was a bit of high ball problems. He continues in that vein, giving away a penalty straight away on 42 minutes. But it was another poor miss for Argentina. So, that doesn't help them at all. They need everything, really. A few minutes later, huge tackles and a turnover from the South African front five. I mean, they are hitting so hard. It's impressive. Puts them back in that dangerous maul territory. They play really nice little play off this line out, inside ball to Colby, and that launches their best attack of the game, I believe. Side to side in the 22, loads of pace and intent, and finally they work it wide to Mpimpi on the left, and he has a walk-in from all the good work before him, plus a nice conversion from Pollard, 22-3. It's just a mountain to climb from Argentina. Miotti's making mistakes, doesn't look the same class 10 as Pollard. He was in instead of Sanchez, but didn't really work. The South African scrum is getting the upper hand. Thomas du Toit looking really good at tight heads. So that's excellent news for South Africa. Now, South Africa are just kind of eating the souls of their opposition here. Argentina actually attack fairly well at this point, but the South African defence is just too good. The ruck contest is undoing the Argentinians' decent work. So you just can't see a way back into this game, as it proves to be, until the very end when Argentina do start playing a bit. On 51 minutes, South Africa now are turning it on. Pollard, huge penalty kick into the corner, 5-metre line out. Very simple try, unstoppable maul. Marks powers over, 29-3. Marks had a great game. And it just feels like in the first half, if it was a boxing match, South Africa were working to the body, softening up the opposition. And then at the beginning of this second half, delivering those knockout blows. And it really is game over. And it's just a case of can South Africa get a bonus point, which in the end they don't. Anyway, 58 minutes, another big scrum penalty. Pollard drills it again to 5 metres. I like the way South Africa hit up in pairs to make it really clear they can't lose possession because someone's straight away there to secure the ruck. More offside penalties, 2 5-metre lineouts, but then it starts to go a little bit wrong for South Africa Poor line-out execution. They really should have sealed up that bonus point there and then. And it lets Argentina slowly get back into the game, even though it's super messy. Argentina slowly getting back into the game. Patient maul gets them to within 1 metre of the line, but they knock it on. And again, a couple of minutes later, making a mistake in the 22, really not helping themselves. And I've made a note here on 60 to 74 minutes, it's just backwards and forwards, really. No one getting on top, fairly messy. No dramas for South Africa, but not a lot interesting to say. It doesn't look like they're going to get the bonus point. Then on 75 minutes, there's a big error from Sanchez. Takes the ball back into the 22, kicks it straight out. There's a good maul opportunity for South Africa, but they muck it up from 15 metres out, and that's the story of this last 20 minutes for South Africa. And Argentina now are just desperate to score and get something out of this game. They run out of the 22. Good turnover from Quagga Smith. Gets the penalty. Goes to another 5 metre line out. Another chance to get that bonus point. But another overthrow line out error from South Africa. Yeah, really painful at the end. I've just written here an awful last 20. Irrelevant in the result of the game, but certainly for that bonus point, very relevant. Then on 78 minutes, Argentina swoop on a loose ball, and it looks like they're going to walk over. Simple overlap, 2-on-1, but it's a forward pass under no pressure. That kills that. But they go all the way back for a South African penalty anyway. Pollard misses touch. I mean, this is the story of the last 20. And then on 80 minutes, Argentina must score. They finally get a good chance, a good 2-on-1 with the line literally a metre away, but they pass to Am instead. I mean, absolutely painful stuff for Argentinian fans. And Lavanini gets a yellow. Who else? He likes a good collection of yellows, does Lavanini. But to be fair, they do not give up. Argentina playing for pride, even though they're deep into over 80 minutes. The clock is red, but they get within 1 metre and batter over. It's the strong Matera smashing over, making the scoreline a little bit better, 29-10. Very poor last 20, costing South Africa. Argentina simply not good enough, left it far too late with far too much to do. So just let me know what you think of those two teams. Ideally, it would be setting up incredibly nicely for the two big guys, South Africa versus New Zealand, in those double headers, but it doesn't look like we're going to get them yet. Are they going to rearrange? Are they going to move to Europe or South Africa? It's so up in the air. But anyway, in isolation, an interesting game. Fizzling out towards the end. South Africa looking a lot better for a lot of that game. So pretty comfortable in the end. So pop those comments below and I will catch you next time.